शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणेश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. In this Tuesday Atma Vichara from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, Bangalore, we have started to read from the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, My Master, which is written by Mahakrishna Swami and edited by Sri A.R. Natarajanji, our founder, president. And we last week looked at the introduction part of some relevant introduction part of the book. Today, we will look at some of the relevant part of the preface of the book before we commence on the book. Sri A.R. Natarajanji has written the preface. He says, Mahakrishna Swami had spent 3 years from 1938 to 1940 as an inmate of Sri Ramanashramam. At that time, the inmates had a special opportunity of participating in post-dinner talks with Ramana, which were in an atmosphere where they could experience more directly His grace while seeking guidance on the path. Those years were, of course, an inestimable blessing for him and the readers of this book as well. Then continuing on it, he says, this enables one to literally switch back in time and to become an inmate of the ashram of those years and relive intimately the varied situations which provide opportunity for a seeker to learn, and in particular, the significance of implicit obedience in the divine will. The master's mood was like the flow of water, never the same, serious when required, full of infectious laughter. Each word, nay, each gesture would communicate a world of meaning and find a response and awaken one to the divine sporting in the heart. It's so beautiful. The self in its Leela is not monotonous, we can say that. It is like the flow of water, never the same. Serious when required, full of infectious laughter. Each word, each gesture would communicate a world of meaning and find a response. We can all relate to this. Each event, we often used to discuss each event in satsang with Nandakumarji, Shardak, and all. Each event may be the same, but the teaching given by the self to each of us will be so apt for each, in the way we perceive the event, in the way we interpret, and the way we make meaning out of it. It's so beautiful. So it is, we can see how the self is with master's mood, it is, which has been compared to here, which is nothing but the leela of the self itself. And all of that, here Natarajan ji writes, is only to awaken one to the divine sporting in the heart. All the leela, no matter whether it is serious, full of infectious laughter, or some gestures, all of it is for only one cause, to take us back to the heart, to the divine sporting in the heart. Continuing, in his post-dinner intimate talks, Ramana would humorously refer to devotees conveniently satisfying themselves that they were obeying the Guru's words, even though they had already decided on a course of action, but appear to keep it pending for Bhagavan's approval. Ramana would remark that some would forget the very purpose of what had brought them to the ashram. Such thoughts as I am serving the master, correcting the proof, attending to the correspondence, washing his clothes, and so on are obstructive. For I would be at the center of their actions, negating self consciousness. One has to be grateful for the opportunity, using it as a springboard to destroy the thinking mind, and be aware of Ramana's grace, the very grace which had brought them to his feet. So beautiful. Here, A.R. Natarajan ji puts it so simple. In fact, the self-enquiry has been kind of deciphered for us. Whenever we have the thinking mind, Bhagavan asks us to inquire to whom is this. The natural answer is, it is for me, that is I. So anything that we would be thinking as I am serving the master, I am reading, or if I am doing anything, attending the correspondent, washing these clothes, whatever we may think, moment we inquire to whom is this, the answer would be, it is for me. So invariably, there is a sense of division. There is a sense of separateness that is underlying. So in a way, all of the belief of I am doing so, or I am thinking so, or anything really underlies that of a thinking mind, a sense of separateness from the Ramana's grace, which is the self itself. So we can understand here how the Atma Vichara, by inquiring to whom is this, moves us from the oneness with the thinking mind to the grace which enables all of it to happen. So it's so beautiful that we forget the purpose and we get carried away by the thought, which was always the thing as it has been narrated here. And Bhagavan being the Bhagavan, the grace, always would rise in the form of an inquiry, or even in his presence, he would simply bring back us from following the thinking mind back to the grace, his feet. Very beautifully written here. Continuing, Krishna Swami states, the teaching of Sri Ramana were transmitted with the naturalness of truth of all that is. They were natural and true as the sun, as the growth of trees, as the flow of rivers. I received them in a manner equally natural and true. I let them grow and bear fruits. So beautiful. The seed which Master puts us will grow so naturally. And Bhagavan says that it will be given to all of us as though baby, so that there will be no sense of I also having received it. So, so here Krishna Swami says that it was true as the sun, as the growth of the trees, as the flow of rivers. I received them in a manner equally natural and true. I just remembered one conversation between Muruganar Swami and Ganeshan Anna. And Ganeshan Anna says that he had brought some mango trees and planted it in the ashram. And he had then, for a couple of months, some Andhra devotees had given him. And then after some day, he had a question about this grace. And he went to Muruganar Swami and asked him what grace is. And Muruganar Swami said, Ganesha, you had put some trees, mango trees. You could have dug the pit, you would have put the manure, would have planted the tree or the plant, and you would have watered it. But did any of those action pull the two leaves out of that new leaves out of that plant? And what makes it sprout out those two new leaves is the grace. So it is like that. We can do whatever we want to do, but naturally, somehow when we are sleeping as the baby, Bhagavan naturally feeds it to us, says Krishna Swami. That has been the experience of most of the devotees. I will read the next paragraph and then we'll go into the practice of Atma Vichara. What does this book have to offer to those on the direct path, to you and me? It is a restoration of a lost treasure. The dialogues which Ramana had between 1938 and 1940, not available so far except for the inmates of Bhagavan Sri Ramanashramam, Brazil. Krishna Swami had gone and established an ashram in the firm and certain belief that this was the direction given to him by his Guru and Master Ramana. Last time we had seen that he was directed by Bhagavan to go to the other side of the world there where there was another hill similar to Arunachala and establish the ashram there. And accordingly, Mahakrishna Swami had been there and started the Ramanashramam, Brazil. And the speciality about this book, which here Natarajanji talks further, is that between 1938 and 1940, this is the period which neither talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi nor Day by Day had captured it, and Sri Mahakrishna Swami had captured it for all the devotees in the Brazil, because that was his stay at Ramanashramam, and that is available to all of us through this book. That is the speciality also of this book, says Sri A.R. Natarajanji. The immense grace of Bhagavan, we'll continue to read the preface next week too. The immense grace of Bhagavan with which alone we have come to this most direct path, wherein no matter what kind of thoughts we get, it is all of the thinking mind, of the sense of the I, a sense of separateness, which has arisen in us. By inquiring to whom is this thought, We become aware of that sense of separateness called the I. Then, by inquiring who am I and tracing what do I really refer to as I, or where from this I thought has arisen, we get back to that natural substratum which alone is everything. So, by repeatedly inquiring, one becomes more and more clear about the nature of the self, the substratum. And Bhagavan says the mind will merge in that source. With the immense grace of Bhagavan, for the next 20 minutes, let us practice Atma Vichara. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Ramana, I will now request Nandakumarji to talk about self-enquiry, and then finally at 8 we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana, sir. Namo Ramana to all. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have been reading from the work compiled by our founder president A.R. Natarajanji. If my recall is correct, it is similar to the talks, but at the same time it gives its own perspective. Coming to self-enquiry, when as devotees of Bhagavan, we practice self-enquiry along with the study or meditation on Upadesha Saram and Ulladu Narpadu, the depth of self-enquiry, the meaning of self-enquiry, and the practice all get strengthened by the meditation on Bhagavan's words in Upadesha Saram, Ulladu Narpadu. And Ulladu Narpadu is called as Ramana Upanishad. And if you look at talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, many of the practitioners of self-enquiry, those who are practicing self-enquiry, they would say that the talks with Ramana Maharshi is a practical application of Mandukya Upanishad. So, if we take the Mandukya Upanishad, Ulladu Narpadu, and Upadesha Saram, and have a look at what is the power of self-enquiry that Bhagavan has given us, it makes for a great combination of bhakti and jnana, bhakti of Ishvara and holding on to the jnana of the Atma Swarupa of Ishvara. So in that, let me take up some verses from Mandukya Upanishad, the English meaning, and try to corroborate what happens to us in self-enquiry. Mandukya Upanishad is essentially containing of 12 verses. Half of the verses, they talk of the self, and half of the verses talk of the meditation of Omkara. So here we are interested in self-enquiry. Now, regarding self-enquiry, regarding the self, what the Mandukya Upanishad says is that it divides the experience of the sadhaka into 3 and then extends it to the 4th, the 3 states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. When read with the Karika, the waking state, the Jiva is called as Vishwa, and the Ishvara is called as Vaishwanara or Virat. In fact, there is Vaishwanara meditation or Virat meditation as a separate branch of meditation, but we are not going to go into that. In Upadesha Saram, Bhagavan says in verses 11 to 15 that one can observe the breath and directly quieten the mind. In verses 1 to 10, Bhagavan would have come through karma, bhakti, and then to ananya bhakti, which is self-enquiry. In 11 to 15, Bhagavan would combine all the karmas into just breath. That means if one is able to observe the breath, then all the karmas with the karmendriyas are all under check, because none of the karmendriyas and the information regarding the senses coming to the through the jnanendriyas can work without the breath. So verses 11 to 15 would ask us to, in Bhagavan's way, observe the breath and the mind will quieten down. Now, if we combine that 11 to 15 with Mandukya Upanishad verse on the Virat, that in the waking state, the Ishvara is called as Virat, and Bhagavan is saying in verses 11 to 15 that the sensory area is all brought to Laya, is all offered to Ishvara by observing the breath. How is this possible? This is possible because there is only one breather within all respiratory animals, whether they be humans or reptiles or even plants. They are all having breathing, and all the atoms in their bodies are permeated by the breath. Therefore, when you observe the who is breathing, the laya that comes is because one is holding on to the Virat, the Ishvara of the Virat, because there is only one breathing self within all. If you observe the breath, then the self that is observing the breath, which is not differentiated as breath in me and breath in others, just observing the breath, then the jiva is holding on to the Virat, and thereby it gets the laya. It gets the laya from all the sensory ups and downs it would have had, all the emotional ups and downs it would have had. There is quietness. But then that is the Virat Ishvara. Whereas that Virat is supported by or is permeated by the Ishvara of the dream state. That is the next verse in Mandukya. In dream state, the Jiva is called as Taijasa and the Ishvara is called as Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is the source of the entire creation. The individual is called as Tejasa because we can observe thoughts. So when you are going in self-enquiry to the level of observing thoughts, from observing breath, when you are going to observing thoughts and holding, for whom is this thought? Who are you holding? You are holding the Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara. Now this becomes clear from the verses 8 to 22 in Ulladu Narpadam, where Bhagavan says that இரட்டைகள் முப்புடிகள் என்றும் ஒன்று பற்றி இருப்பவாம் அவ்வொன்றேதென்று கருத்தினுள் கண்டால் கழலும் அவை. That means the dualities of good and bad, knowledge and ignorance, right and wrong, like and dislike, all this arise holding on to one eye. And as we discover in our practice of self-enquiry, the thoughts may be initially we may be getting some individual thoughts, this happened, that happened, but then we get the understanding that I am still getting bad thoughts or this good thought is arising. That means in our enquiry itself we will be going to that place where we will be looking at the thought not for thought per se, but from the root division as good thoughts and bad thoughts. Now, the good thoughts, bad thoughts division is definitely not from the individual I who has started the sadhana. So, when we are inquiring for whom is this good thought or for whom is this bad, there we are holding the Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara. This gives us because this morning one of the practitioners had written to me that when I am doing self-enquiry, I am losing the self-confidence that I had earlier. So I wrote back, you will lose the self-confidence of the individual self, but then you will start gaining the self-confidence of holding on to the Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara. There, all the individual thoughts and capacities have to be forsaken because you can't hold on to them. Whatever you have nicely thought about and reasoned out and kept, but you have to leave them, and you are going to hold the very source of the good and the bad. Now, this becomes even clearer as you go down in the verses of 8 to 22, where Bhagavan says that the second and third person arise only holding on to the first person. And when the truth of the first person is inquired into, that Hiranyagarbha eye also vanishes. Just like the Virat eye, the breathing eye is absorbed in the Hiranyagarbha eye. The breathing eye of Ishvara is absorbed in the Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara. The Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara vanishes into the deep sleep eye or the Ishvara Swarupa itself. That is the eye, where it is Ananda Swarupa. It is Anandamayam. Mandukya Upanishad says the Ishvara in the deep sleep is called Ishvara, and the Jiva there is called as Prajna. You have to read it together with the Karika. Then you understand these six, that the waking state individual is called as Vishwa, waking state Ishvara is called as Virat. And when you hold who is the breather, you are holding the Virat. When you go to the thoughts, and when it is clear that you are now looking at, as Dileep ji would say, how does it matter whether it is good thought or bad thought? You have to let it go. But you can understand that you have gone to the root division, that you are not looking at the thought itself, but you are looking at good and bad. You are looking at personas. First, second person, second and third person arise only holding on to the first person. Nigalvinay, the past, present, future, all the three arise holding on to the self only, the Hiranyagarbha eye. Obviously, past, present, future cannot be arising from Nandakumar's eye. But as we do the enquiry in the flow chart, we will be holding on to the Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara, from where the thoughts of time comes. We would have been habituated to correct ourselves in time. As dharmis, we will be evaluating, oh, this is what happened in the past, and I will be evaluating it in the present. In future, I should become a better self by adopting these techniques. That would have been our practice, which would have helped purify us. But Bhagavan is expecting us to come to that correction, which is done completely in the present moment by holding on to that I from which past, present, and future arise. So, whenever the mind goes to the old model of Nalayinda idu madbardu, that hereafter I should not do this, or from tomorrow I should sit for this much time, Bhagavan asks us, for whom is this thought of time? Now, there, the very thought of time itself, and not allowing yourself the felicity or the facility of going into time and correcting yourself is done. There, you are holding the Hiranyagarbha eye of Ishvara. And Bhagavan says, Ahami Nasha Bhaji, that even that Aham of the Hiranyagarbha eye, that also vanishes into the eye of Ishvara Swarupa, the Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss kosha of Ishvara, into which the Virat eye and the Hiranyagarbha eye subside. The Hiranyagarbha eye is even more clearer when you meditate on further verses like the Vidimadi Mula Vivekam Milarke Vidimadi Vellum Vivadam. The fate and free will are only for those who have not inquired into that I from where fate and free will arise. When you inquire into for whom is this fate and free will, fate being uncontrollable thought or uncontrollable experiences, and free will being that which you feel is under your control, both arise holding on to one eye. That is the Hiranyagarbha eye according to Mandukya Upanishad. So you can understand that you have to let go of your individual life. You have to let go of support of any of the other people whom you have felt are good mentors. You feel this person shares with you good thoughts of Bhagwan. You can't hold on to him. But you can hold on to the Hiranyagarbha of Ishvara as you go in. And what it will, even that will vanish into the I, the Anandamaya Kosha. And that is Mandukya Upanishad saying that in deep sleep, the Ishvara is full of bliss. Anburuvunilane anbakkaraittaru. The jiva and all the jivas, all the actions, all the thought worlds, all are absorbed in the Anandamaya Kosha of Ishvara, the I. And there is the fourth quarter. There is the Turiya, where this Anandamaya Kosha must have inside and outside. So the na antah prajna, na bahi prajna. So in the fourth quarter, there is not even this bliss, there is not even this Purana, there is only the mere knowledge of and complete knowledge of, direct knowledge of being, where the Chit and Sat are one. Sattaya hi Chit, Chittaya hi Aham, where there is complete awareness of the self and no other support is required. Not even the support of Ishvara, not even the support of this Purana is required in this pure being. And one understands that the journey has naturally brought us to the self of all, the Turiya Tita, because it is Turiya Tita, because it does not need the support of even the Ishvara of the deep sleep state. Even this Purana is not required for one to know oneself. So when you combinedly meditate on Mandukya and Bhagavan's works of Ulladhanarpada and Upadeshasaram, that gives you the clear indication as to the depth and gravity of practicing Atma Vicharam, and that the grace of Ishvara will automatically be there. We are only surrendering the sensory activities to the Virat Ishvara by observing the breath. We are only surrendering the thought activities of all jivas, all personas to the Hiranyagarbha Ishvara. Ishvara Shakti only is doing all that. And automatically that enquiry, that vichara, leads us to the Ishvara of the deep sleep state, the Purna Ananda Swarupa, which also finally quietens down into the Turiya, where there is not even the bliss for us to enjoy, because there is no Antah, Bahi, and any of these in that consciousness. There is only pure Sat. And Atma Vicharam, self-enquiry, will take us without rest, without halting, to that, the Turiya, the self of all, is Bhagavan's blessings to us. And there cannot be a more happy and more blessed person than one who picks up Atma Vicharam as the Pradhana Sadhana with Bhagavan's grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We'll conclude with the prayers. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chintavihinam Hridi Chintayami Chintavihinam Hridi Chintayami. Namo Ramana to all. Namo Ramana sir, thank you.